Hi Year 7, welcome to your silent lesson. So there should be no one talking today. Everything is done through the computer. All your feedback will be given to you globally this way. Okay, so we're going to use feedback to construct our good copy. You need to, in order to be successful, implement that feedback, review your work to make your good copy, and then save your work either on a USB or email and send it to me. So I'll put my email here as a reminder. Cool. Righto. So what we're going to start off with is that I'm going to get you to just put the titles into a Word document to start with. So, let's set up our screen. Can you please put this video in a small box so it's up on one side of your screen? So kind of like that. And then on the other side of your screen, you've got the Word document. So there should be like a Word document on one side and the screen on another. And that's to ensure that you can see both things at the same time. So once you've done that, so pause, do that. Once you've done that, open up a new Word document, so something like this. What you're going to do is put in the titles of the sections that you need to put into your assignment. So that's all we need to put in for now. And we're going to work through this systematically with the video. So going back to the screen here, first thing, so we've done this part here, so that's a check. I'm just going to highlight it saying it's completed. All right, I'm going to give you feedback for each section, so I'm going to get you to listen, then work. Listen, then work. So I'll do that with you. So we're going to do this part here. I'm really happy with how everyone's done this. They've got their research question, they've got the claim, and they've got how that links. So those three things have done really well. You can take your document here, pause the video so that you can type your research and planning. Okay, I'll just do that in italics. Okay, next thing, evidence section. And this is the one that is a little bit different. We don't need to follow this exactly, but your general format should be. State the evidence that you found, so research found. This means, now it's not this means it answered the question, it means this means what is the interpretation of the evidence. So if you found that the moon and the sun are aligned when there's a spring tide occurring, your interpretation of that information is this means that when they're aligned, the gravitational pull increases, therefore the tides are higher and the tides are lower, and that is what a spring tide is. So that's what you mean by interpretation. Overall, this supports my research question that the moon causes the spring tides. So that's what we're looking for when we say this means. It's your interpretation. Okay, so then you would follow that again. Additional research found. Overall, this evidence further supports. So we're just restating that. There is a pattern, and that's explain what you found. Overall research question was or was not answered, and state why that is so. So that's all we need for your evidence section. Now, as I've said to you, it does not need to be perfect exactly like this if you want to take some liberties with how you write this because you prefer to write a different style. But they're the three things that you must have. Like you need to have your evidence with an interpretation, evidence with interpretation, and then your pattern, overall, yes or no, this is my research question answered. So I'm going to take this and bring it over here because this would be essentially someone's assignment that I'm doing here, like as if this is what I would be expecting to read from you. All right, there we go. So that's the evidence section there. A couple of things to remember in your evidence section. Oh, there we go. I'm going too far. Things to remember. Earth is a pronoun, so it means it has a capital letter. It's possession, so if you have an Earth's tilt, Earth's axis, Earth's seasons, they are Earth's tides. They are all possession, so it needs this little apostrophe. You can never prove in science, you can only support. Proof is, it's not indefinite, so we don't ever say prove, we try and use the word support. Now, a pattern is a repeating occurrence of something happening. So if that's the case, if you've got one person saying this happened, and then you've got another person saying that this is the evidence, and then a third person saying this is happening, that's your pattern starting to emerge. So if you've got two people saying the exact same thing, or two pieces of evidence saying the same thing, that's your pattern. So that's that one. And then in-text referencing. Now remember, you can do this two ways. You make a statement and put it all in brackets, so the author and date afterwards, or you mention the author, the date in brackets, and then suggest whatever it is. If there's no author, use the book title or the website organization. So NASA Space Center found this, and then research. Otherwise, as a statement, research found this, and then the whole author date in bracket. So with that in mind, pause the video and complete your evidence section. Right-o. Evaluation. Now this was done with varying degrees of success. I know that it is one of the trickier things to do because it is a more complex thinking skill, because you're trying to weigh up the pros and cons, or the strengths and limitations of how you did your research as well as the evidence you collected. So again, one of the things you really need to be making sure of is that you refer to this checklist here for your evaluation. So this section here, and it'll show you how you can write your conclusion. So this bit here, actually I'll do it in yellow because it's a bit hard to see that green. So that's what we're looking for. Now, if you have a look here, identify limitations. It's the weak points within the evidence, how it affects the reliability. So small sample size, qualitative statements, no quantitative data. So that's maybe a limitation. If you cannot work out how the author worked it out, then that is a limitation. So something the author does not include in their evidence that reduces the reliability of the data collected. Okay, this is the thing. Quite a few people use currency, as in like when it was published, as a limitation. That is not a limitation. That's the quality of an aspect of your research. So, just want to make sure I'm still recording. So if that's the case, then it's conducted by the author. If they said to you the data was published, like their evidence was published in like a time less than 5 years, yes, that would be a limitation, because it might mean that further studies have been done since then that could be updated. If it's about the time that it was like the publication of it, then no, that is on the research. That's the aspect of the quality of the research conducted. So if you've done that, you might want to go back, and I think I've mentioned that in people's work, that if you've done this, it's not a limitation, it's a quality issue. So that's probably why you might have got a tick in your needs work or not achieved for your limitations in the evaluation section. Now with the quality, that's the aspects of the evidence as a result of the research process. So pick 2 or 3 aspects. Don't try and do all of it, and try mentioning the strengths or the positives, because we want to suggest that our data is of high quality, our evidence collected, so your research process, is done to a high standard, so positives. So the general format should generally be evaluate the quality of the data. This is important because, why is it important to have high quality data? For example, and then something from your aspect. Refer to the evidence as if you're using in-text referencing to differentiate what source. So what I mean by that is, if you're saying like source A, source B, try and use their actual name. So Lofson Evergreen, for example, Lofson Evergreen is a textbook. Or, for example, the Bureau of Meteorology is an authority on phenomena relating to this, or it's a government agency. So you would actually refer to them as if you're doing the in-text referencing. I hope that makes that a bit more clearer. So, in that note, pause the video and write your evaluation section in here. Next one, conclusion. Okay, this is a quick blurb of your findings. This again, so if you have a look here in your research task, draw a conclusion. They're the 3 things that you need to include. Now, a couple of you are doing this and not doing these, or you're doing this but not doing these other things. So please make sure that you are getting all 3, because actually you are, this conclusion is what you are assessed on. It's like a part of your ISMG. So draw a conclusion. We want to make sure that you are saying the researcher's question is stated, supported because, and then do a brief summary of the evidence that you collected to do so. So I think I've got that written here. Yep, a quick blurb of your research and answer. It should link back to the evidence you collected. So this should link back. So that's one thing. State your improvement. Oh wait, that's why I did it that way. This should link back to the limitations or identified and explained in your evaluation. And then state an extension. This is not finding more research. So if you're, if you say this could be extended by finding more research, that's not relevant or specific to the research question or claim. It needs to be linking back to the research question and your claim. So if your thing was about neap tides, then you might go, oh, well, we'll have a look at spring tides or king tides, or looking at the position of the sun, you might want to look at the position of the moon. So those type of things when it comes to showing extension. So there really should be those three things. Oh, and an improvement is not finding more research. That is, you should be doing that because this is a research task. Your improvement has to link back to that limitation. So if you're saying about currency, like, you know, the data that was collected in 2010, not published, there's a difference, then that would be an issue. So it would, an improvement would be to collect information or locate studies from after 2010 to see if it has been updated or see if there's been improvements in that research. And then how that links to the claim and the research question. So, sorry, this extension needs to link back. Okay, well followed on the references. Easier to do on a computer than it is to do handwriting because you can actually italicize things and do that appropriately. Okay, now that you've got all of that, pause this video. If you need to come back, rewind and get cracking. Don't forget to save your work. Stay awesome, Year 7. Bye.